What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMC, the People's Fitness Professional, aka Soul Brother #1, reporting for duty. We got
Yes,
the
sir.
brother Magnetic Allah in the building, and
Yes, sir.
and then we got a
A
special
very
guest.
special guest, man, all the way from Ghana, a brother named Imole. Now, listen now, I know y'all hear a lot of stuff, man, from so-called Pan-Africanists, people who say they're Pan-Africanists. Now they call them scam Africanists, okay? This is the brother who, from originally, as long as I have known him within the last 25, 30 years, walked next with Kwame Ture, with Bob Brown, with Willie Mukasa Ricks, and has always been a staunch Pan-Africanist, laced me on revolutionary path, on conscientism, you know, somebody that really walks this, and he has a school. He didn't just talk this stuff in here in America. He went to Ghana and built a school based on the principles of Pan-Africanism, Tureism, and Nkrumahism. And the school is based upon that. They've put out at least 150 students who have went on to college and have went on to, you know, some of them become lawyers and become professionals. So just to let you know, Pan-Africanism is not just a theory that people here just talk. This is, some people have moved out on this and have created curriculums and schools and have materialized a lot of very successful young people based upon this, you know. So, and that's this brother who we have here today. His name is Brother Imoli, you know. So he is kind of carrying on the work of Nkrumah, you know, but coming from here, going to there, carrying on the work of Pan-Africanism and Nkrumahism, Tureism. And hey, it's a very commendable effort, bruh.
And
Yes,
I think
sir.
and I think he's right there. He's ready to rock and roll. Before he comes
Okay.
on, I'm gonna just tell you, man. Just interacting with him for a few minutes today, he has that spirit, that Pan-African spirit that this platform has needed. You know, not saying that, Mag, you don't have the Pan-African spirit. You do.
Well, I learned from
Definitely.
him, though. I learned
Right.
from these are the guys who taught me. This brother
Right.
here, he introduced me to Kwame Ture, and he definitely got it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yes, sir. So without any further ado, here
Come
we
on.
go. Peace.
Yeah,
Peace.
greetings.
Peace and
Greetings,
blessings.
Africa.
Greetings, brother. So before we go into it, I want to ask you a few questions. First off, how you doing this evening?
Oh,
Well, it's
well, happy to
evening
be
here.
at home in the motherland.
Right.
Say
And
that.
so I just want to learn a little bit about you before we go into the questions. So you're from America, of course. What state?
Well, I'm from Africa, but
You're
I
from
grew up in America. I'm from Africa. You know,
Okay.
here, they say, where are you from? Then you say where you originate from, not where you're necessarily born.
Got you.
So I'm from Africa, but I grew up in the States, yes.
Okay. And what state?
In Washington State, Seattle.
Seattle. Oh, okay. Seattle. That's peace. So what was it like growing up? You know, in your era and time in Seattle, that would bring you to, get inspired to go to Africa and open up a school.
I think he froze up a little bit.
Froze up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's got to go out and come back.
Okay.
Pardon me, family. He is in Africa. He's in Ghana right now, right?
Indeed, yeah.
Ghana.
So he's a little bit of a ways away. We've been having a lot of solar flares lately, and that messes with the satellites, you know, and the technology. So, you know, just a heads up to the fam. Have patience with us.
Yes, sir. So give me a background about, like, how did you meet that brother? And you said you learned from him.
Well, you know, our families was extra tight. My uncle and his uncle was tight. My mother and his mother are real tight. So, you know, and he had came back at a certain point from Howard, and then, you know, he was like, "Hey, I'm trying to bring Kwame Ture," and I was like, "Ooh, let's do that."
I went to UDC, not Howard. UDC.
No, Howard. pardon me, UDC, yeah. And yeah, that was how we connected. And then we connected. I brought the people I knew, and then he brought the folks that he had connections with, and then we had an all organizational rally that I was telling you about, similar to the Black Roundtable. You know, thing was that Akili knew way more about Pan-Africanism. I was a nationalist, Black nationalist, knew a little bit about liberation theology, but he knew he had the Pan-Africanist piece. So, yep.
All right, all right.
Mhm.
So the brother froze up again. He's got to go out and come back. Froze up again.
Mhm.
All right. So pardon me, family. As we said, he's actually in Ghana right now,
Mhm.
and you know the Wi-Fi and all that is tough out there. So back to your history with him. Can you break that down even more? Elaborate a little bit more.
Because his mother's like my aunt, you
Mhm.
see, because my mom and his mom grew up together. So, you know, when he came back in town, the person, of course, they was going to connect with was myself, you know, so we could bring Kwame and, you know, get the Pan-Africanist ball rolling. Because I was in the nation at the time, moving into the Nation of Gods and Earths. And, you know, my cousin, he's like my cousin, Imole come back in town. So I was like, well, yeah, let's do it. I was also connected to the Garfield BSU, the African Cultural Awareness Alliance. So, you know, we was able to get the building and draw up a lot of other organizations and bring them to the table. You say Kwame Ture's name, of course everybody want to come to the table. So we told them Kwame was coming, so everybody wanted to be there, you know, and then we had, you know, full participation.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So what
Yeah.
was that like? What was that like coming up under, this brother right here? Like, what was you said you learned from him? So what did you learn from him exactly?
Well, specifically Pan-Africanism, because I was already learning Black nationalism from the nation, a lot of other Black nationalism from the Nation of Gods and Earths. I knew a lot of Kemetic stuff, but the tenets specifically of what Pan-Africanism is, you know what I mean? The history of it, what it looked like, what's the difference between this system and other systems, you know? And, you know, there was a lot of Marxists, but I appreciated us having Pan-Africanism because it replaced where Marxism, where they would have slid Marxism in on us, you know? You see what I'm saying? And the brother, he's going to build on that, the difference between Pan-Africanism and Marxism, because there's a big difference, man. The two are not the same.
All right. So now coming up, Imoli, that's how
Yes.
you pronounce it, right? Imoli.
Imole.
So Imale.
Imole.
Imale.
Yes.
So how did
Yes.
you what's that name a mixture of? Is it a mixture of Ghanaian names, Nigerian? How what's that name? The
Well,
origin,
it's my
the
lineage.
background.
Yeah, it's Imole. Imole is Yoruba. My full name is Chibu Ikem Imole Mosi Chukwu Oye. So it's a mixture of different names from different parts of Africa. Chibu Ikem and Imole and Chukwu and Oye are from Nigeria, but Mosi is Kiswahili.
Kiswahili, you said.
Yes,
Yeah,
Mosi is Kiswahili.
yeah.
Yes.
So Swahili is familiar, like among the what you want to call African American population. Now,
Right.
how is it in Africa? Like, is Swahili like one of the languages people speak out there, or no?
Not in Ghana, no. In Ghana, the languages that people speak mostly is Akan language, Hausa, Ewe, Ga. Then in the north, they have Dagomba and Nunumba and Mosi and Dagati and other languages like that here in Ghana. But my lineage is from mostly from Nigeria. My direct lineage is from Nigeria. And so that's the name I'm taking in order to, represent where my people come from.
Okay, so your direct lineage. So what
Yes.
led you on this path to end up in Ghana and opening up a school in Ghana? Why not open up a school in Seattle?
Well, to me, I take it that we're African people, and this is our home. And so, being introduced to the Pan-African Revolution, I was motivated by Mangaliso Sobukwe. That's who opened my eyes, was Mangaliso Sobukwe. And he was the leader of the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania in South Africa. And they were fighting an armed struggle against white settler colonialism in our land. And so that inspired me to join the United Pan-African Front. And because we learned initially from an armed struggle fighting for land, that motivated me to, to focus on the issue of land. It's not just about building castles in the sky instead of fighting for land. So, I'm like, no, we need to go home. We need to go home where our own land is, where we can stand on our land and it's ours and have control over it, And so that's what motivated me to, return to Africa and start organizing in Africa. Because like Malcolm X said, that we have to have something powerful that looks like us. So building a United States of Africa, a continental government for Africa, to me is the solution for our problems, all over the world.
That's where the throne is right there. Exactly. So now you already explained to us what inspired you to, but what year did you go about doing this? Start traveling to Africa and making those moves?
Well, in 91, I was a delegate from a conference that took place at Howard University. I graduated from UDC, but this conference was at Howard, and it was an all-African student and youth conference. And we had over 113 African organizations from all over the world that met at Howard and formed the Pan-African Student and Youth United Front. And the objectives of the Pan-African Student and Youth United Front was, one, to recruit other student and youth organizations into the front, and then also to organize a worldwide Pan-African Student and Youth Congress in Africa. And so I was honored to be the delegate on behalf of that front to come to Ghana and represent Ghana in negotiations and deliberations with the National Union of Ghana Students and the All Africa Students Union, in addition to organizing PASS Youth in Seattle. So that's what I think Comrade Kenyatta was talking about when I was in Seattle organizing with the NAACP, Masunda, the Black Student Unions in University of Washington, at Seattle Central Community College, at Evergreen, and other locations throughout Seattle, and bringing those organizations together to form a Pan-African Student and Youth United Front. We also made overtures to the Crips, to the BGDs, the Folks, and all of them when we were doing that work in Seattle. So it was like two-pronged, like also organizing, African unity among the African student youth organizations in Seattle and throughout the states, and also focusing on the prize by trying to organize African students on the continent and the diaspora to try to encourage the governments to come together and form that continental government that will satisfy our people's desires, and what Marcus Garvey and Kwame Ture and Martin Robinson Delaney and all of them stood for, that continental government that we need. We're one army for Africa, one currency, one common defense, market, everything, to unite our people.
Okay, and that was in 1991.
Yeah, 1991. So that's what we were doing. That's the work we were doing, meeting with the National Union of Ghana Students, meeting with the All Africa Students Union, and even it was called the Pan-African Trinity. In that time, also during that time, with PASS, we changed from PASS Youth to PASM, the Pan-African Student and Youth Movement. And we were supposed to organize the youth component for the 8th Pan-African Congress that was supposed to be held in Tripoli, Libya in 1997. Yeah, we formed the Pan-African Youth Revolutionary Brigade, and we were trying to work with Kwame Ture. We joined the Worldwide African Anti-Zionist Front, and we were working with Kwame Ture and others to try to, bring about continental unity.
Check. Okay. So 1991 and 1997. Now, what gave you the inspiration to open up a school, and what year did you do that?
Okay, in Ghana, I joined the All African People's Revolutionary Party. That was in 2001. And so we were doing work organizing the youth in the senior high schools in a formation called the NAPAC, the National Association of Pan-African Clubs. So we were going to the senior high schools, meeting with those students, organizing those students, giving them books by Kwame Nkrumah, Sekou Ture, Marcus Garvey, Du Bois, and educating them on Pan-Africanism and trying to recruit them into the AAPRP. And so during that period, you know, I had a facility that, like a restaurant, like a food service place. And so I started organizing youth in the area for free Saturday schools at that place, right? And so with the free Saturday schools, I was like, okay, these guys are going to be going into the senior high school, so we can start educating them in math, in science, and African history. So a brother named Wolako Biaku, he was teaching math and science, and I was teaching African history from the same book that AAPRP starts people off with for Work Study Circle, which is The World in Africa by W.E.B. Du Bois. And so we were studying the world in Africa, and I was trying to recruit those youth into NAPACs in the senior high schools after they were graduating from junior high school. And so, you know, it was effective. It was a real good program that we had going on. And so, you know, that's how we started with the school, with the free Saturday school. But what happened was my mother, she came and saw the free Saturday school and she was impressed, but we were lacking in resources, right? You know, so the brother who was teaching the math and science, we just were able to provide boarding for him, but we wasn't able to pay him anything. And the students, they didn't have no food to eat when they were coming for studies. So it was like, you know, we were just making do with whatever we had available. So my mom was like, okay, let me go and talk to some of these Black nurses in Seattle. And they said that, well, they can provide some money for us to be able to provide food for the students, pay something to Wolako for his work. And then that was like the beginning of, you know, me getting involved in the educational process here in Ghana. And so then, you know, what happened was we were organized, I was still organizing in the party, but, you know, I got shot and attacked by armed robbers. I was writing articles in the newspapers and things like that here in Ghana. I got shot by armed robbers, you know, and recovered, still continued to do work, revolutionary Pan-African work. And then my mom came again and saw this big field, you know, that we had a plot adjacent to the field. And so she was looked at the land, was like, well, what about opening up a school on this land? And I was like, okay, well, and so she mortgaged her house in order to get land and build the first classrooms in the administration block for the school. And then I took on the responsibility running and organizing the school. And then that was it. That was the beginning of People's School for Positive Education, Kwame Nkrumah School.
2001, that's when it started.
No, 2006.
2006 is when it started.
Yes. So I was organizing for the AAPRP from 2001 to 2004. Then I was writing and organizing a food service provision facility, and also doing work with the Free Saturday School with the youth. And then from there, you know, we opened up People's School for Positive Education in 2000. Yes.
Okay.
We started developing in 2005, but we opened in 2006.
Okay, and so are you back and forth to Ghana, Seattle, or you just in Ghana the majority of the time?
I've been in Ghana since December of 1999, and I haven't left Africa. Yeah. I've only been to Nigeria in 2021. I was in Nigeria for a week. But aside from that, I've just been in Ghana.
Okay, so I just want to take it back, and we're gonna go to some more questions. I just want to rewind. So you got shot, right? That situation, did it have anything to do with your works in that country, or was
Well,
it?
I had a newspaper article in a paper called Kaswa Today, and the article was entitled "Property, Democracy, and Power." And so, while the newspaper article was on the newspaper stands, that's the time we were attacked by armed robbers that very night. You know, and so it can be maybe coincidental or it may have been political, but we can't say for sure.
Gotcha. And you've been safe ever since, though.
Well, ensuring my safety ever since, my brother. Ensuring our safety ever since, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, can you explain to our audience how and where you were introduced to Pan-Africanism?
Okay. I was introduced to Pan-Africanism as a student at the University of the District of Columbia. A brother from Inglewood, California, named Chris Gaines. He was a close friend with David Sobukwe. David Sobukwe is the namesake, the son of David Sobukwe Sr., who was the representative to the United Nations for the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. That was an armed struggle in Azania, South Africa, that was putting fire on the white racist regime in that territory, with scorpion guns and hitting their soft underbelly with the slogan "One step with one bullet." And so he started giving me information about this organization. Sobukwe speeches, Azania News, Azania Combat. I was like, wow, all this racism that we've been encountering in the United Snakes all these years, suffering, discrimination, police terrorism, and now our brothers in Azania, South Africa, are fighting like that, with sophisticated, polished propaganda, newsletters, intelligent, intellectual, analysis of the situation. I was like, wow, and I was a student at the university, so I was very impressed, particularly by Sobukwe, and so, I was ready, so after that, I joined the United Pan-African Front, with Obi Egbuna, Chris Gaines, and Mahmoud Tanga, Dave Jackson, and others. Baron Jamal Musa, Mark Phillips. We all formed the United Pan-African Front, and then went to universities throughout D.C. metropolitan area, in Virginia, in Maryland, and in D.C., and started recruiting other African student and youth formations into the front. That's how I got started.
Gotcha. Check. Okay. Do you have a list of Pan-African books that you would recommend to our listeners?
Yes. Ready for the Revolution by Kwame Ture. Africa Must Unite by Kwame Nkrumah. Stokely Speaks from Revolution back to from Black Power back to Pan-Africanism. Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. Africa on the Move by Sekou Touré. Pan-Africanism or Communism by George Padmore. But those are like, books for people who are interested in beginning, There's
How
other
about
books.
The World in Africa, family?
The World in Africa by Du Bois.
Yeah.
There's another book that a comrade of mine wrote named Sekou Nkrumah called Pan-Africa, Repatriation and Pan-Africanism, the Suppression of Two Movements. And he wrote another book called Notes on White Supremacy and Capitalism, that I helped him to write the section on neo-colonialism in that book. Yeah. So
Okay.
those are some of the books I would recommend.
And we're going to list those and put
Right off
those
the
in
top
the
of my
comments,
head.
y'all. Yeah.
You said?
No, we're going to put those in the comments below the video, so to make sure everybody can get that and reflect on those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
And also, if you're following us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can rewind it and easily and just and listen to it again. So before we go to the
Asada
next,
too. Asada.
Yeah.
Asada, yeah.
Yeah. I have to mention the sisters.
Oh, for sure. Now, how was it? Yep. And you getting ready to say something?
No,
Now,
go ahead.
your experience in Ghana, what's the experience like as far as like how they view African Americans? Was it an easy transition? Was it a little, stressful? Was it, some kind of like issues out there, with people of Ghana?
Well, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to readjust, because many of us who grew up in the diaspora experiencing, the genocide of chattel enslavement, have mental slavery. A lot of us, we don't really know our direct lineages, language, and there's like a disconnect. And so I think that what it does require is some humility on our part to come home and be willing to learn, be willing to listen, and observe the environment and throw away that, American arrogance that some of us come here to Africa with, And so I think that's an important part. And it takes a lot of time to be able to adjust to Africa. People are not going to just show you everything just like that. And so those who are coming back, we must come back. So I'm not dissuading anyone. No, we have to come home. But as we come home, we have to, I think, do our due diligence, do our preparation, study where we're going, and and importantly, and a lot of us really don't pay attention to this, is that those who have already repatriated and have been living in Africa for, let's say, more than 10 years, those who are coming, fresh, need to talk to them. You see, give them some respect, talk to them, and, make sure that when we're coming to Africa, those people are on our itinerary, whether they're organizing politically, whether they're having schools, whether they're having clinics, or whatever kind of whether it's, health, it's begging food, whatever it is, come and hook up with the repatriates who have been here for a minute, and let them, tell you what you need to know so you could come home, properly. And then also what I would say is that when we come home, we should make sure that we're doing something that's beneficial to the people here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That should be the plan.
Yeah. So for me, I when I came, I was organizing with the most Pan-Africanist youth, that I was aware of in Ghana, with the National Union of Ghana Students and the All Africa Students Union. And so I came kind of like as a diplomat, working with them, meeting with the student leadership in the country. And so that helped me to kind of be a little bit, insulated, where people are like, but I didn't just come straight like that. I was coming doing that work. And so, on the one hand but then on the other hand, I was living in Alajo, in a chamber hall. So it was like I was kind of on the streets at the same time as doing that type of organization. So for my person, and I was young, 23, 24. And so my personal experience was like a young guy coming in, A lot of people are coming here, they're real old, you know, and then they finally come to Africa. But I came young. And so I was able to, you know, have that youthful exuberance when I came, you know, ready to organize revolutionary Pan-Africanism, you know, meeting with the youth leadership in the country, you know, and trying to learn everything I could. Happy to be, you know, home, you know, really, really happy to be in Africa, you know, smelling the air, you know, going to the beach, bathing in the water, you know, eating the food, you know, it was wonderful for me, and I'm still here.
Right. Indeed. So, but what about the people who are from Ghana, like the natives there? How was that? How was the relationship with that? Did they treat you any differently because you're American or anything like that?
Well, you know, I'll put it this way. They didn't treat me badly. You know, even some people will try to even treat you better. You know what I'm saying? So it's not something like you're being discriminated against or anything like that. If you're an African, a black person coming from America to Ghana, there's no discrimination against you. You know what I'm saying? People will be hospitable. You know, it's just here is just, you know, a lot of our people in the States are actually Ghanaians by blood. So it's the same people. It's the same people, you know. And as you live here and see the people's faces and their behavior and everything, you can see that we're the same people. You know, we're the same people. You see people that look just exactly like people in your family, like your friends that you grew up with, got the same face, got the same maybe voice, got the same mannerisms. You know, we're just Africans, you know, and we're just in different locations. So, you know, just like maybe Nigerians come to Ghana or Togolese come to Ghana, there'll be a little bit of difference, you know, in terms of how they're being looked at or maybe how, you know, they're being talked about. But there's not really any discrimination. You know, the people will deal with you how you're coming. I hope you follow what I'm saying. How you're coming and how you're doing, then that's what people are going to be looking at, and you'll be dealt with, you know, accordingly. But if you're coming from the States, they'll be thinking you got some money though. They'll be thinking you got some money. So maybe if you know you go to the market, then and you have that tonation in your voice that looks like you're a foreigner, then they may call a higher price. But if you've been, you know, if you've been here and get more experience, then you'll know how to negotiate at the market. You see, you learn how to negotiate at the market. So as you get experience, then you know your expenses decrease with experience.
Gotcha. Right, brother. King Hercules. Brother King Hercules, you're a martial artist. Us. What style is that? Anyway, right. As long as you respect the culture and the people, they'll treat you fine. All right.
That's right.
All right. Now, I want to go into. Oh yeah, real quick before we go into that question, the way the government is out there, right? And old school taekwondo, us, brother. So the way the government is out there, how's the government out there? How's the economy out there?
Well, it's neocolonial, you know. Like Kwame Ture defined neocolonialism, the state which is subject to it has all the outward trappings of international sovereignty, but in reality, its economy and thus its political policy is directed from the outside. So, you know, we're into neocolonialism, and you know, we're struggling in order to unite Africa and get control of our resources for the benefit of our own people and not foreign interest. You know, so that's what's going on now, and that's the struggle that's taking place here inside of Africa. Is a struggle against neocolonialism.
It seems like the struggle everywhere.
Well, it's different fronts, but you know, it's the same struggle in nature.
Yeah. Right. What are the most practical elements of Pan-Africanism that people can apply to their everyday lives?
I would say that accepting an African name and identity. First I would say a name. A name is personal, and it's a self-consciousness. And self-consciousness is a higher logical type than consciousness. And so therefore, that's a decision that we can make our own self, inside our own mind without any outside interference, who we are. And so accepting an African identity, that we're African people, accepting an African name, and then agreeing to practice our own culture and make our culture dominant in our spaces. We could wear our own clothes, we can read things about Africa, we can have meetings to discuss about Africa, we can eat healthy food, to make sure that our bodies are healthy. We could discuss and teach our children about Africa, learn something about Africa every single day, and fight for Africa wherever we are. That's what we can do. That's personal, and we can do it all the time. We have social media. We can look up something about Africa every day and make sure we learn something new about Africa every day, and we can love Africa and African people, and have an undying, serious love for our people, and commit ourselves to sacrifice and struggle for our people's advancement and liberation. That's what we can do.
All right. Can you tell us about your school? Oh, you went through that. We already built on that. All right. What is the role of what is the role of the Pan-African teacher, professor, and educator? How do we implement these teachings into our schools, churches, temples, and our homes?
Well, I would say the role of the Pan-African professor and teacher is to provide a philosophical and ideological direction, a philosophical theoretical basis, and an ideological direction for the youth. Because one of the things that we don't pay much attention to in the States is the philosophy and ideology and culture that's dominant over the educational process. And so, the European, he's very conscious about dominating that space. And like Kwame Nkrumah said, philosophy is the head. Philosophy is the head. The rest of the subjects, physics, chemistry, math, are the body. But philosophy is the head. And so they make sure to control the philosophy that is dominant over all of our instruction, over all of our religious institutions. You get what I'm saying? So the job of the professor and the teacher, the religious leader, is to provide an independent African philosophy from our own culture, from our own experience and consciousness, from our own material conditions, and make sure that is where our thinking is being derived from, and not from some outside people's experience and culture and being imposed on us, and then making us assimilate them and making us extensions of their ancestry, Right. And so I think that's very important. And that's what we do at Kwame Nkrumah School, People's School for Positive Education, is we have our own philosophy, we have our own ideology, created by Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah, and everybody in the school memorizes that philosophy and ideology. Teachers, students, canteen staff, security, everybody memorizes the philosophy and ideology. And also, too, everybody in the school uses a traditional African name. And the PTA voted for that, and that's the policy of the school. So they can't be a student in that school, a staff, or even a visitor. If you're a visitor, come with your African name, or that's it. Come with your African name, or any staff. So we're doing that. We're doing that. It's a big step in the right direction, and hopefully throughout the whole of Africa, we can emulate that. We've seen examples of that in certain parts and pockets. But if we could just say, well, we're not using any foreign names anymore, we're going to use our own names to identify ourselves, I think that's a real important first step.
Yes, sir.
We call it the Proud African Campaign, to use our own names from our own languages in order to describe ourselves according to our own ancestry, and then also to use our languages, and not because in Ghana, people are punished for speaking their own languages in schools, and so but that's not the law, but that's the practice, and so we think that we should be proud to speak our own languages. Their languages are beautiful, and to use our own names and to eat our own food and to wear our own clothes, Other people do that, right? Proudly. And so why can't we?
Right. Okay. What does Ghana think of Burkina Faso and Captain Ibrahim Ture? Do you see West Africa moving in a similar direction?
Well, for I would say, speak for my organization, the Nkrumahism Caucus. We marched with Traore, on African Liberation Day, the 25th of May, and I was one of the speakers at that program, Walk with Traore. And so we support Traore and the Alliance of Sahel States, and they're making very positive steps by removing U.S. and French military bases from their territories and also nationalizing their resources. And so even in the courts in Burkina Faso, they wear wigs, they wear European wigs in courts in many parts of West Africa, in Nigeria, in Ghana. And so in Burkina, they've taken those wigs off in adjudicating, and they're wearing traditional headdress. And so they're renaming the streets. They're taking French names off the streets and renaming them after great Africans. And so they're doing good things. So we support Traore, and we stand behind him and the Alliance of Sahel States and what they're doing. But Ghana, like I said, we have a U.S. military base in our territory. So that agreement was signed on 24th February 1998 by the Rawlings administration with the U.S. military, and they've been having a certain type of cozy arrangement ever since, and so it's very difficult for Ghana to go in a different direction. I mean, go in the same direction as the Alliance of Sahel State. We need to get rid of that U.S. military base out of our territory, and that will, enable, clear thinking about the way forward. But with that, being in the territory, it's difficult, I think, for the government to think clearly about, which way they want to go in, But I think the Alliance of Sahel States, they've expelled all those foreign military bases, from their territory. And so we hope that Ghana will follow by expelling the U.S. military presence out of our country, because they don't represent anything but imperialism.
Right. I like this question right here. Are some of the sisters still bleaching their skin?
Yes. Some of the sisters are still bleaching their skin. And like I said earlier, because there's a dominant philosophy and ideology, and it's foreign, and it's reflected in how ancestry is projected, in education, in philosophy, and socially as well. And so foreign ancestors are being projected as dominant over our own, And so with that's because of, foreign religious doctrine like Euro-Christianity and Wahhabism is pervasive in the country, throughout pretty much throughout all of Africa, and I'm
All right. Uh-oh. All right, he's gonna have to go out and come back. He was cooking.
Yeah.
Pardon y'all, as we said, he's in Ghana, so You just gotta bear with us. Bear with us.
Yeah.
Queen,
He was cooking with hot grease, man. Hot grease.
Not just sisters. Leo the Lion, what do you mean not just sisters? Who else
A
would
lot of
be?
people is using bleaching cream, in other words, you know.
Yeah,
But
but
check this out.
who
I
else
always
would be
say,
using bleaching cream though?
well, it's one thing to bleach the skin, it's another thing to bleach the mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? One is kind of reversible, and you bleach the mind. That means everything that was about you that was original, that came from your culture, you have extracted and replaced with something else. And
So the sister's saying the men are bleaching their skin too.
yeah. Like Sammy Sosa. Remember Sammy Sosa? He was like darker than that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, man! I would like to see that. I would like
Sammy
to.
Sosa, Michael Jackson.
I
Jackson. We seen it.
I want to
We
see. I
seen
want to
it.
experience that real quick. I want to see what's going on out there with that.
We
That's
seen
crazy.
it. I mean, that's all the effects of, white supremacy and neo-colonialism. And my brother will tell you, you'll see a picture of the white Jesus, and right next to it, you'll see a thing of advertisement for Natanola, bleaching cream. So they're saying basically you can look like Jesus if you get this. See? 2 best-selling products, bleaching cream and the Bible.
Wow.
So, yeah, we got some work to do on the continent, man.
Right, for sure. For sure. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about so one of the sisters in the chat said that the men are using bleaching cream as well.
It's true. It's true, but it's not. I don't think it's so widespread, but it's going on. Yeah.
Okay. Is it going on?
We hope to stop that.
Right. Is it on its way out as a trend, or is it just like it's still prevalent? As prevalent as it was?
White supremacy, and capitalism have merged. So, since that economic system is dominant in the country, white supremacy is accompanying that, and so it's expressing itself, like Kwame Ture wrote in Neo-Colonialism, that mechanisms of neo-colonialism, evangelism is one of the key, elements of neo-colonialism in Ghana, and in Africa, in Nigeria, all over, evangelism. So they have evangelists that are, they're buck wild in Ghana, where they have churches that keep people up all night, not being able to sleep. It's crazy. It's like the religious indoctrination is, really, really out there, in the country. And so that's why I'm saying that the excesses of, Euro-Christianity, or Euro-Christianity itself is a poison, and it's poisoning the people and giving them inferiority complexes, with white Jesus, and white Jesus is all over Ghana, and so that's why we need to have an independent philosophy and ideology from our own culture, our own experience and consciousness, and make our African personality dominant. That's very key. Because what's happening is other personalities are dominating ours. You see, the European personality is dominant. That's why there's bleaching. That's why there's perming. That's why there's coat and ties. That's why people are being whipped for speaking their own language and only can speak English or French. That's why, that because their personality is dominant. Yeah.
Got you. I like how you said. I like how you said capitalism and white supremacy has merged.
And there's a really good book that talks about that, called Capitalism and Slavery. I don't know if y'all read that, by Eric. I think it's Eric Williams, I think his name is. And it kind of shows you that the rise of capitalism came through slavery. And the rise of the white world came through slavery and capitalism. Without those two, you would not see the white supremacist world that you see today. Period.
Said Eric Williams.
Yeah, capitalism and slavery.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. Brother's back.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, he's back. He's back.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
All
You
right.
back, family? Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, our next question is, please tell us about your book, and it will be out, and when will it be out, and how we can
get
get it. How we can get it. I need glasses, y'all. I need glasses. The brother need glasses. I keep avoiding it, man.
Getting old, man, but it's all right. As long as you get wise too.
I keep getting cut off. Yeah, I'm saying that our African personality has to be dominant, and we have to be conscious about that. That we have to make our personality and our culture dominant. You know, and all the exigencies, you know, related to that, especially in our own spaces. You know, and so we can't be remote control through somebody else's ancestry. You know, they're remote controlling us through their ancestry. You know. And then we're assimilating things from their ancestry and culture and experience. And then, you know, now we become copycats and imitators, you know, wannabes, you know. And so that kind of, you know, you can see that it's working for them, you know, with Colin Powell's and Condoleezza's and Obama's and all them working where they have an African body, but a Europeanized mind. And so if we allow our children to be educated like that, what's going to happen? You know, because the thinking is being derived from the material conditions. So we have to create conditions where our personality is able to dominate. And so then that will derive thinking that enables us to be able to dominate and contest where necessary. You know what I'm saying? And so, okay, about the book. You know, I was intending to write a book about using higher order thinking skills to teach African history. That's what I was preparing, and I had already started on that book. But my mother was telling me that I should write an autobiography, and I was like, man, I'm not really interested in writing an autobiography, you know. And she was like, man, nobody has done what you've done, so you should write an autobiography. And so I was like, okay, well, you know, I hear you. And so she kept, you know, since she told me, oh, she even gave me an outline. Like, okay, what about all these experiences that you could, you know, write an autobiography about? And I was like, okay. So I just was chilling and I thought about it. I was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and start. Go ahead and start an autobiography. So I started, and then it started growing, it started developing faster than the other work I was doing on the other book. And so then as time was going on, I started to reflect on a lot of different experiences. And I was like, well, yeah, because I think that a lot of our people can learn a lot from the experiences that I've gone through, you know, in the States and also in Africa. Because I was in the States. I was born in '66. And then I left the States in '91 to come here for about 2 years and off and on. Then in '99, I came permanently. So that's '99, 2009, 19, 20. So I've been here for like 25 years, 26 years, or 27 on the ground in Africa. And in the States, about 30 or so, you know. Yeah, so about 31 and about 27 here. And so that experience, you know, is invaluable. And I'm hoping that by writing this autobiography, then I can encourage repatriation and Pan-Africanism among the African population in the States. And also to educate the African population inside of Africa to be more cognizant or to be more learned about who the African population in the diaspora is. You know, that what is in you is in them because you have the same ancestry. And that's one of the key things in the book is to demonstrate that you know, the talent in gymnastics, in fighting, in running, in speaking, you know, in surviving, in dancing, you know, in whatever. It's the same people. And so certain things that's in us is coming from our people, you know, here. And we're the same people. So, and I think that a lot of information is lacking about, you know, who we are in the diaspora, you know, and our relationship to our people at home. And in these movies like Roots, they don't show facial, they don't show, what is it called? Facial marks, you know, in those movies. You know, they don't show that Kunta Kinte, if he was a Mandinka, he would have had some marks on his face, you know, or the people who was Akans, or they all have, they had like passports. And these crackers knew who they were. And they were even negotiating based on their ethnicity. And Britain even has the book with all the facial marks of the different ethnicities that were being captured to be able to identify exactly who they was. And so they knew who we were when we arrived over there. And then what they did with the genocide in order to separate us from that information. You know, so I think that it's important for me to write this autobiography in order to, one, give the background information on, one, that Africans didn't sell the Africans in the diaspora, that the majority of the people in Africa fought in order to keep us inside of Africa. And that's a very important point that needs to be clarified, that the majority of Africans fought to keep us inside. There's a book called Fighting the Slave Trade, West African Strategies by Sylvain Diouf. That's another book I would recommend. So, because that part of our history in Africa is the one that's excluded from, you know, educational system that we're exposed to. You know, we don't hear about how our people were fighting to keep us at home. So that's where I'm beginning the autobiography, about how our families were fighting to keep us at home, you know, not collaborating. There was kings that were collaborating in the capture of people of other ethnicities, not their own ethnicity. So everybody was fighting to protect the people in their own ethnicity, who they saw as being their own people. Everybody was fighting to protect them, you know. And so it was national divisions that were being sold by arms trade, with guns coming in to change the terrain militarily in West Africa. So that's what was going on. And so going from that background, that's where I'm beginning the autobiography, you know, going from that background into, you know, so I'm looking at it as not just me per se, but what are the conditions that created me to be in the condition that I was born over there? You know, what happened before we're over there, Africans who can't speak our language and don't know our traditional don't know our surnames and don't know our God concept, you know, don't know our geographical location of origin, you know, just like all the Africans here, they all know that, you know. So why are we over there and we don't know that, you know? And so that's those things, we have to get to the bottom of that. You get me? We got to get to the bottom of that and not sugarcoat or dance around things. No, straight up, you know, what are the conditions that created a population of Africans in that particular state? You know, and it was conscious and it was calculated. You know, it's conscious and it was calculated, and it was genocide. And so I'm saying it's not was genocide, it is genocide, you know. And so I'm putting all this information in this book to clarify some of those things that lack clarity by doing the research, you know. And I think living here in Africa for 27 years is really helpful, because I can see, you know, how the population of Africans is in the snakes. and then how our people are living here, you know, and then how the conscious element is in both places, and then how ignorance is pervasive in both places, and then what the strategy of our enemy is in both places with both populations.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? How mental slavery is designed over there, and then how colonial mentality is designed over here.
Mm-hmm.
You follow what I'm saying? Yeah, so I think that having that insight, and I'm pretty insightful, brother, you know, I can see what's going on, you know, well. And so I'm trying to look at my own experience, you know, before birth, you know, to the present, and then look at our people's experience too, and try to, you know, draw inferences from my personal experience to the general experience of our people. Because I think my own experience is a good, I was brainwashed just like everybody else, you know, brainwashed, you know, so, you know, but fortunately, you know, and happily, you know, I was woke up. I had it in me to wake up and change from the brainwashing, you know. But it happens to a lot of us, you know, that way, that are conscious. If we didn't come from conscious families that, you know, where the family had African names, or they were in the UNIA or in the Nation or in the AAPRP, or, you know, as some form of organization, you know. So my family wasn't in those organizations, you know. They was fighting and struggling just like everybody else, you know, but resisting racism in the best way they knew how, just like anybody else. But I wasn't privileged to come from a family like Kenyato's father was in the Black Panther Party. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I didn't get that kind of orientation growing up, you know. And so, you know, but we struggle how we can.
Indeed, indeed. Well, on that note, man, I mean, we have two more questions, but hopefully you'll come back and we'll ask these last questions and even some more. Man, I'm glad to have you, brother. This is the kind
I'm
of
glad to be here, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and
no
I was
problem.
gonna say, family, you know, we definitely have a need for a voice and a mind like yours on the show, family, the Black Roundtable. So we want to invite you to come and be our, you know, be our professor, our resident professor, man, to speak to us in the audience on these issues, past and current, you know, family.
All right.
Yep,
All
yep.
right.
And that's an example of Pan-Africanism, because we're over here, you over there, da da da. Just that very relationship. Yep.
Indeed.
Well, we
Mhm.
define Pan-Africanism as the total liberation and unification of Africa under an all-African socialist government. That's how we define Pan-Africanism in the
And see,
Pan-African
we need
Nkrumahism.
that, family. We need that very often on the show to be reminded of the true essence of what it is and not the interpretations or the commentary on it, because we're getting too much of that, you know. So we are
Well,
very.
we see Pan-Africanism as being dialectical, like all
Mhm.
things. And so, you know, that what's the I forget the leader of AFRICOM. You know, he was in
Oh,
Ivory Coast. What's that?
yeah.
What's that? The man. I think he resigned recently.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I forgot his name. Yep. It's
He
on the
was
tip
the
of my
one
tongue.
criticizing Traore
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
in the legislature in the states. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm saying
Oh
him
yeah, I know
coming
you're
to
talking
me.
about. Yeah.
Yeah, him coming to me what Alassane Ouattara, a reactionary African head of state, is
Right.
Pan-Africanism. You know, but what kind of Pan-Africanism is that? You know,
Come on. Mhm.
reactionaries in the diaspora meeting with the
Right.
reactionaries in Africa. That's not going to help us to
Amen.
liberate our continent and improve our people's condition. You know, so we need to have Pan-Africanism that we're looking at the masses of our people who work, who struggle, and having those people organized, coming together in a way that's going to be beneficial to all of us, not just a few, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so that's how we're looking at Pan-Africanism, you know. And the only real Pan-Africanism that's relevant is revolutionary Pan-Africanism, you know, where we have to change everything. We have to, you know, take these white people's names and discard them and use our own names. We know we need to come home. We need to, eat our own food, healthy food, wear our own clothes,
now, hold on, brother.
organize ourselves, and take power. Take power.
Indeed, brother. Now, before we close out, I want to know what's your favorite Ghanaian dish.
Yeah, my favorite Ghanaian dish is banku and tilapia with pepper and shito.
You eating good, brother. Yes, sir.
On that note, peace, everybody. Really appreciate you, brother. Thank you, Mag, for bringing up this guest, man. I really appreciate it, man. And we are out of here. Peace.
Black power.